Hello and welcome to Plus TV Africa. I am Felicity Ezewike with the news on the hour. President Muhammadu Buhari has described yesterday's tanker explosion and resultant loss of lives as one of the greatest tragedies of recent times, as he condoled with the government and people of Lagos State. The Lagos State Governor, Mr. Ambode Akinwumi, also commiserated with the people of Lagos, stating that everything will be done to ameliorate their pain. According to Lasema yesterday evening, a Mark tanker loaded with 33,000 litres of premium motor spirit (PMS) and moving inward beggar experienced brake failure on the Otedola Bridge. The tanker then ran into another vehicle that was stuck in traffic and exploded, releasing its burning contents onto the road. Reports from the General Manager of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, Lasema, Mr. Adeshino Taimiyu, confirmed that the bodies of 9 people, 8 adults and 1 minor, were recovered, while 4 persons who sustained various degrees of injuries are currently in hospital. President Muhammadu Buhari will leave Nigeria for Mauritania tomorrow to attend the 31st Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union (AU) slated for July 1 and 2. He is also expected to hold talks with Togolese President as well as interact with stakeholders, community leaders and clerics on national issues. According to agency reports, Mr. Buhari will condole with the government and people of the state concerning the recent flood disaster caused by rainstorms and downpour, which left 6 people dead and over 500 houses destroyed. The president will deliver an address on the theme of the summit, Winning the Fight Against Corruption, a Sustainable Path to Africa's Transformation. Mauritania is hosting the AU summit for the first time since the inception of the union. Meanwhile, President Buhari has been received by Governor Aminu Masari at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina State, where he is scheduled to visit the Emir of Katsina, Al-Haji Abdulmumin Usman. President Muhammadu Buhari will on Thursday, signed 2 new bills, the Medical Residency Training Act 2018 and the Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission Establishment (ETC) Amendment Act 2018 into law. Senior Special Assistant to the President of National Assembly Matters, Senator Itai Nang, told journalists that the medical law enacts and regulates the Medical Residency Training Program for the training of medical practitioners and dental surgeons. The program would be regulated and managed by the National Medical Postgraduate College of Nigeria. Enang said the amended Hydropower Act No. 7 of 2010 reduced the derivation payable to the Commission from 30% to 10% and fortifies the power of the minister to issue policy directives, as well as reinforced statutory powers of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission to regulate the electricity industry under the Principal Act. 2 suspects, Ekene Okechukwu and Alagba Gabriel, have been paraded by the police in Enugu State over an explosion at the house Chief John near Nwodo, President General of Ohaneze Ndibo Worldwide. The State Commissioner of Police, Mohammed Dam Malam, revealed to journalists yesterday in Enugu that the suspect planted and activated an improvised explosive device in Nwodo's residence that went off on April 29, 2018. According to him, the suspects, Ekene and Alagba, sent threatening messages to the chief after the bombing, telling him to expect more attacks. However, both suspects denied being responsible for the explosion, saying they only sent those messages after hearing of Nwodo's anti-Biafra stance on radio and meant no harm. President Muhammadu Buhari has stated that a lack of credible database on HIV has had a negative impact on the country's ability to attract foreign aid and has worsened the spread of the disease, making Nigeria the country with the 2nd largest HIV prevalence in the world. Speaking at the launch of Nigeria's HIV/AIDS Indicator and Impact Survey in Abuja yesterday, Mr. President regretted that in spite of resources put into efforts against HIV since 2001, 3.2 million Nigerians are estimated to be living with the virus. The president, however, expressed optimism that a new survey would provide data on the areas mostly affected by HIV and how best funds could be drafted to manage the virus. The survey, which will be conducted by experts from the University of Maryland in every state of the country, will have a sample size of 170,000 persons and will be supervised by the Federal Ministry of Health and National Agency for the Control of AIDS. According to the country director of UNAIDS, Eramus Mora, about 1 million Nigerians are on treatment for HIV, but only 5% of those affected are receiving government support. A journalist working with the New Telegraph, Al-Hassan Yusuf, was knocked down and killed in Bauchi by a speeding motorcyclist who was riding without headlights. Relatives of the deceased, Jumei Yusuf and Adamu Yusuf, who spoke to the press, said he was certified dead 2 hours after they rushed him to the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi, while unconscious. According to them, all through the process of getting a card, encumbered by lack of electricity to print out a payment slip, Al-Hassan was left unattended at the trauma center of the hospital, even while bleeding profusely from a skull fracture. 45-year-old Al-Hassan left behind a wife and 7 children. His remains have already been laid to rest according to Islamic rites. Meanwhile, Chairman Bauchi State Council of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Malam Ibrahim Goje, who expressed shock, described late Yusuf as a gentle and peaceful person and prayed God to grant him rest. The deceased had worked with the State Ministry of Information before joining the New Telegraph as Bauchi State correspondent. And on the foreign scene, Chase Cook, a reporter with the Capital Gazette newspaper, has tweeted to show that they have not been cowed by yesterday's incident. 5 people were killed and several others injured after a lone gunman opened fire inside the building that houses the Capital Gazette. According to the police, the assailant, who was armed with a shotgun and smoke grenades, entered the building and began the assault yesterday afternoon. Cook tweeted that despite their loss, they were still going to put out a paper today, which they have done. The newspaper tweeted its front page along with the obituaries of their colleagues. Buckingham Palace says Queen Elizabeth, who is 92 years old, is feeling unwell and as a result was unable to attend a special service on Thursday at St. Paul's Cathedral. She was represented by the Duke of Kent as Grand Master of the Order at Thursday morning service to mark the 200th anniversary of the Order of St. Michael and St. George. The Queen had earlier on Tuesday night presented 3 Nigerians, Isaac Ezirim, Hawa Ojiofo, and Kennedy Ekezie Joseph, with the Queen's Young Leaders Award at a special ceremony at Buckingham Palace, London. The Queen of England is the world's oldest and longest reigning living monarch. Italian Interior Matteo Salvini has said in a radio interview that he wanted to see concrete commitment from the European Union on migration. This comes after EU leaders pledged in an overnight agreement to strengthen external borders and explore new migrant centers. In a convoluted statement meant to satisfy a range of views, the leaders agreed to set up joint asylum processing sites and restrict migrant moves within the bloc. But this decision to go ahead would be carried out on a voluntary basis by member states. Meanwhile, European Union leaders agreed today to set up joint asylum processing sites and restrict migrants' movement within the bloc, responding to concerns from Rome and Berlin at a hard-fought summit. EU diplomats said the leaders reached a vaguely worded agreement on reception centers to deal with migrant and asylum seekers in EU nations, which would volunteer to have them. The 28 EU leaders also agreed to further tighten the external border and increase financing for Turkey, Morocco, and northern African states to prevent migration to Europe. EU Council President Donald Tusk said in a tweet that the 28 EU leaders have agreed on a migration compromise, which was at the heart of their two-day summit. Speaking as he was leaving, French President Emmanuel Macron said the deal was good news. The ongoing search in northern Thailand for 12 boys and their soccer coach who have been missing inside a flooded cave entered its sixth day on Friday. Police and rescue teams began dropping survival packages through a shaft drilled into the mountainside, not knowing if anyone was there. The boys, aged between 11 and 16, and their 25-year-old assistant coach went missing on Saturday after they decided to explore the 6-mile-long Tam Long Cave complex, despite a sign warning visitors that the maze of passages and chambers was prone to flooding. Police have been scouring the area in search of other ways into the cave as divers tried to find their way through the flooded passages. 20 packages filled with water, food, medicine, flashlights, and a note addressed to the missing team were dropped down a fissure in the cave on Friday. Thai police said Prime Minister visited the site on Friday to encourage the rescuers and assure relatives keeping vigil that every effort would be made. Numerous flights were cancelled on Thursday when a volcano erupted on the Indonesian holiday island of Bali, sending a column of ash and smoke at least 2 kilometers into the air. Jetstar and Virgin Australia also cancelled flights, and hundreds of passengers were expected to be affected. An active volcano in northeastern Bali has been puffing since late last year. In December, minor explosives eruptions led to closure of the airport. Airlines have avoided flying through the volcanic ash as it can damage aircraft engines, clog fuel and cooling system, and hamper visibility. And in business, during the Business Editors Forum held in Lagos on Thursday, Dr. Vincent Wani, Director at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, while presenting the Director General LCCI, Muda Yusuf, stated the ripple effects of the late budget signing. According to him, the late passage of the 2018 budget has a high possibility of impeding Nigeria's goal of becoming one of the top economies in the world, as the value of the gross domestic product may drop by 13%. He also said this could lead to a slowdown in the economic recovery process by postponing the multiplier effects of government spending. In his opinion, business journalists should raise the conversation about the roles of the National Assembly and the executive in budgetary process. He also addressed the country's state of indebtedness as the ratio of interest payment to revenue is over 50%. Yet he said the country prides itself as having a low debt to GDP ratio. Still in business, although the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Company had restored the bust pipeline and gas, as announced by the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, and reports from TCN showed an improvement in gas supply, the power sector last week lost 11.2 billion naira due to inadequate gas supply. This accounts for an increased 15% loss compared to the 9.7 billion naira loss recorded in the previous year. According to reports from the Office of the Vice President of Nigeria, on June 25, the average supplied was 3,685 megawatts per hour, but 1,598.5 megawatts was not generated due to gas unavailability. 982.1 megawatts was also not generated due to high frequency caused by unavailability of distribution infrastructure. Also, on losses recorded was 160 megawatts due to water management. However, Mrs. Ndidimba, General Manager, Public Affairs at TCN, said TCN is building new substations and revamping existing ones through the implementation of the Transmission, Rehabilitation and Expansion Program. Tokumbo is up next with entertainment news.
In entertainment, it will be recalled that sometime in May, Eduardo Len was arrested for allegedly stalking Grammy Award winner Rihanna. He was also arrested for allegedly breaking into the singer's home in Los Angeles, sleeping over while waiting for the Caribbean singer to return from the Met Gala, which she attended earlier on. He was charged for felonies such as residential burglary, stalking, trespassing, as well as resisting arrest. In addition to all of this, policemen have gotten a warrant to access his social media pages in order to prove the stalking charge. A judge is looking into Leon's case to decide whether the accused is mentally fit to stand trial, even though he's currently on bail. Hugo Boss is releasing a revamped version of the white suit of Michael Jackson, the one he wore on the cover of his Thriller album. The world's best-selling album was released in 1982 and is famous for the following tracks: Thriller, Billie Jean, and Beat It, amongst others. The music features young Michael, who was 24 at the time, and German label Hugo will be issuing 100 suits, each one numbered, as well as 3 unisex t-shirts, each featuring a significant moment in the late King of Pop's career. The clothes, the luxury brand, along with Sony, have sponsored an exhibition at London's National Portrait Gallery, marking what would have been the singer's 60th birthday. For Hugo Boss, it's a privilege to be connecting with Michael Jackson. US rapper Drake has released his 5th album, Scorpion, early Thursday night. The album clocks in at a hefty 25 songs and features Jay-Z, Michael Jackson, Nicki Minaj, and others. Drake is found playing both sides of the fence on each of the albums, facing presumably split to show off Drake's rapping and singing respectively. The album is Drake's first project since 27's More Life, which is billed as a playlist. It is his first album since 2016's commercially successful but poorly reviewed Views. Ghostbusters director Paul Feig has signed to bring Emma Thompson's newest script to the big screen. The British actress and screenwriter Emma Thompson, who got an Oscar for her Sense and Sensibility screenplay in 1996, has a new festive romantic comedy titled Last Christmas. The details of the film are yet to be released, but the story will be about a holiday in London. The actress Thompson will also produce alongside David Livingston. And that's it on entertainment news. Up next is Udoka with the sports news.
Hello and welcome to Sports Update on Plus TV Africa. The second round fixtures have been decided after England lost to Belgium 1-0, but both countries qualified to the next phase of the World Cup, which is the second round of the tournament. 16 teams have moved to the knockout phase, and the games kick off on Saturday, the 30th of June, with Group C winners France up against Group D runner-up Argentina, and Portugal will be up against Uruguay. And of course, other games will have Spain take on host nation Russia, and Croatia battles Denmark, Brazil versus Mexico, Belgium versus Japan, Sweden versus Switzerland, and Colombia versus England. And Argentina football legend Diego Armando Maradona has offered a whopping sum of $10,000 as reward to fish out the author of WhatsApp audio messages, which started rumors that he died of cardiac arrest. And according to the WhatsApp voice messages, it was reported that the man has an Argentine accent, and for Maradona's lawyer, Matthias Moller, he revealed the news of the $10,000 while he was speaking with Argentina's Clarin Daily from Russia on Thursday. And Maradona was earlier this week removed as an ambassador for FIFA and will no longer be paid over his conduct during Argentina's game against Nigeria, where the Argentines won by 2-1. And Maradona was pictured celebrating Argentina's victory in an offensive manner, and FIFA considered his behavior as embarrassing. And the Belarusian, ranked 45th in the world, defeated Poland's Radwanska 6-3, 6-1, 6-3 at the Nature Valley International, talking about Arina Sabalenka in the world of tennis. And she earlier stunned defending champion and former world #1 Karolina Pliskova to reach the semifinals of the Eastbourne. And she will go on to play either of Danish top seed Caroline Wozniacki or Germany's Angelique Kerber in Saturday's final. And top seed Caroline Wozniacki later progressed with a 6-4, 6-3 victory over Australia's Ashley Barty. And for Wozniacki, the world #2, she will play Angelique Kerber in the final 4 after the German defeated Russia's Daria Kasatkina 6-1, 6-7, 7-6. And still on tennis, two-time champion Andy Murray will play Frenchman Benoit Paire in the first round at Wimbledon next week if he decides he is fit enough to compete. And Murray, who is 31, has still not confirmed he will play in the championships, which starts on Monday following a long-term injury. And he defeated Paire in straight sets to reach the quarterfinals of Wimbledon last year, his last Grand Slam appearance. And for British #1 Kyle Edmund, he opens his own game against Australia's Alex Bolt. And that's it on Sport Update on Plus TV Africa. Remember to join us on our social media handles on Instagram, Twitter, and of course our Facebook at Plus TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoku. Back to you, Felicity.
Thanks, Udoka. And that's the news at this hour. My name is Felicity Ezewike. Do have a good afternoon.